wandering past. Sister Susie just grabbing something from the bottom row. What have you taken this time?
Well, it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, so it has to be a Guinness. Or, you know, if you fancy a Jameson's or a Bailey's instead, if Guinness isn't your thing, then they're quite tasty too.
Could I have a Diet Coke?
You could definitely have a Diet Coke.
Yeah,
that works too.
Yeah.
So if you hear any noises during the confession, it's because the studio doors are open because of inclement weather in the basement of the studio, so it's very hot. So if there are any other voices, it's probably work people getting stuck in. Father, this comes from Clio. Clio, thank you very much indeed for today's confession. Father Simon and his forgiving collector. My confession happened some 15 years ago, and I feel that enough time has passed. And now is the time that I should fess up. The event in question took place at the annual village show. It was always a hotly contested show with vast amounts of cash and an array of silverware up for grabs. The photography section had two major prizes. One silver salver for the highest number of points awarded, and the second was for the best exhibit overall. It was taken very seriously, and the prestige with winning was immense. I wouldn't say that I was the next David Bailey, but I enjoyed photography, and over the years I had won the silver salvers on a number of occasions, says Clio. It had become a closely fought competition between a small number of people, like golf. On this occasion, one of the subjects was entitled A Garden Visitor.
Okay.
That
Nice.
was the name of the project. Easy enough, I thought. And in the run-up to the show, I had been happily snapping a nest of young blackbirds in our garden. However, the more and more pictures I took of the birds, the more and more I became frustrated. It was all a bit brown and boring, with only their beaks for contrast. The search was on for something bigger and better. So I asked my husband for some inspiration. And more often than not, annoyingly, he has better ideas than me. Now, what he suggested, Father Simon, would definitely make a better picture, but there was a big issue with his suggestion. And that big issue was that the garden visitor in question, a bird, would have definitely visited a garden at some point in its life, but not now, because now the bird in question lived in a large domed glass cage and was known to us as Barney the Owl and was completely and truly stuffed. Barney the Owl had been in my possession since I purchased him from a taxidermist at a local county show a few years ago. Would this be acceptable? I asked myself over and over.
No.
So, rightly or wrongly, I carefully lifted the dome off and took Barney outside and arranged him in the hedge. Fortunately, the pins attaching him onto his plinth could not be seen, and if I'm honest, it did look good. I snapped away. I was onto a winner. After printing out the pictures, I still felt that this was not really the right thing to do, but on the other hand, it must have been a garden visitor at some time in its life, just a play on words. Father Simon, it was a competition after all. My mind was made up. It had to go in. The day of the show, there was always a flurry of excitement in the hall, people eyeing up the competition as they entered their exhibits. As I handed my photos to the steward, I hesitated, worried that I might get disqualified for not fitting the brief. She perused my entries, and when she viewed my entry for The Garden Visitor, she paused, admiring the photo. My heart missed a beat, waiting for her comments. "Oh, look at that," the lady exclaimed in a "Oh, look at that," she said in a high-pitched voice when she saw Barney the Owl. "Was that in your garden?" Wow. "It's lovely. Must have been friendly to stay still for so long." Yes, I said, stuttering, not wanting to engage in any conversation at all. I made my excuses and turned on my heels and hastily departed, still thinking to myself, should I just go and get the picture back? It was too late now. Others were already looking at it. I'm now going to pass it to Matt, because I have a copy of the photo. There it is.
Goodness me.
That is the picture of Barney the Owl in a tree.
Yes.
You would just think it's an ordinary owl.
Of course you would, yes. Very well done.
After what seemed an extraordinarily long wait, the show opened at 2 p.m. once the judging had finished. I entered the hall, and as I headed for the photography section, I could see that I had won a number of first prizes in the other classes, which I was pleased about. And then my attention turned to the garden visitor entry. To my shock and disbelief, there, staring at me with his perfectly formed features, Barney the Owl had only gone and done it. First prize for garden visitor. I tried to hide my surprise, but then, Father Simon, worse was to follow, as Barney the Owl, yes, poor old Barney the Owl, had also scooped the prize for best exhibit in the whole of the photography competition. It was only now that I really, really regretted listening to my husband and entering the picture. A number of people had gathered round the photo and were making comments. I had one chap say to the other, "Look at that there owl, it looks stuffed to me."
Where are we again?
I haven't said.
Oh, good.
Fortunately, I haven't said.
Sounds like South Africa, but anyway.
No, came the reply. Look at its eyes. It's real bright.
Yeah.
They're real all right. There, look at the owl. Look at the owl's eyes.
Look at the owl.
They're real all right. It says here Suffolk, but I apologise.
Yeah.
So, Father Simon, I'm seeking your forgiveness from your collective, together with all of the other contestants at the photography section, who possibly could have won the Silver Salver if it wasn't for me winning both Silver Salvers. Also, I seek forgiveness from the judges who probably did believe it was real. But have I really committed a wrong deed? That's, that is also another one of the questions. Say, have I committed a wrong deed? Well, let's check in with judgment from Sister Susie.
Well, Clio, I think you knew that you'd done something wrong, because you said all the way through that you wasn't sure it was the right thing to do, and your gut was telling you maybe not, and that is what you should have done. You shouldn't have entered it, because also you already won lots of other prizes, so why did you need another? And you could have let someone else have a go. So I'm sorry, Clio. I think you shouldn't have listened to your husband. Maybe there's a lesson there, and not forgiven.
I'm looking at the photograph now, and to me, it looks like an owl has settled in the tree.
Yes.
And it doesn't look stuffed at all. No. Brother from another country?
I'm easily going to forgive on this on 2 counts. Number 1, the title of it was A Visitor to the Garden, and it's visiting the garden. It's absolutely
she put it there.
fulfilled. Yeah. Well, she put it there, but that doesn't mean it's not visiting the garden. It's visiting the garden.
Wired to the
it's
branch.
Wired to the branch. Doesn't matter. It's visiting the garden. And also, aren't they supposed to be judging how well the photo is taken? It's not just the subject. It's how well have you taken the photo? And clearly, they took the photo very well, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine. There's nothing to forgive.
Okay.